Hello, my name is Kelsey Camplain, and I'm going to be walking you through my problem-based learning activity that covers the Freedmen's Bureau. This activity, it is for United States history, and it is designed for an 11th grade class because it follows the Gwinnett County Standards of Education, and under those standards, you do learn about United States history once you get to 11th grade. The skills that we'll be working with here are visual literacy, reading and image, writing, speaking, and listening. And then there are a lot of different teaching strategies that'll be utilized in this lesson, including modeling and practice, nonverbal representation, background knowledge, and then there will be a lot of collaboration in this activity as well. Before we get started with this activity, there's some background information that students need to be familiar with before they're able to fully participate, and that is listed here under required foundational knowledge. So they're going to have to understand the timeline of the American Civil War. They're going to have to understand that slavery was a part of American history in the southern United States. They're going to need to understand that the southern economy was based on agriculture, and they're going to need to understand the word sectionalism, which is an important historical term leading up to and a little bit after the Civil War. The materials that are going to be needed for this activity include sticky notes, writing utensils such as pens and pencils, student computers, preferably most districts around me are one-to-one, so every student has a Chromebook that they're issued, but students will be working in groups, and as long as each group has one computer, a classroom can get by with around 5 to 10 computers. Student desks, dry erase markers, a whiteboard eraser, predictions worksheet, and Freedmen's Bureau reading. The worksheet and the reading, both of which are provided in the lesson materials. So the standard we'll be working with is here. And then our target, I want them to be able to use their prior knowledge to make predictions. And we're going to allow students to use their prior knowledge to determine problems, brainstorm solutions, and research historical actions. So the brainstorming of problems and solutions and research aspects are going to make this problem-based learning. We're going to start off with a warm-up, and the goal of the warm-up is to review students' knowledge and to get them ready. Again, this foundational knowledge is necessary before they can move forward, so in the warm-up we want to get their minds ready and also make sure there's no misconceptions before we begin. They're going to do a think, pair, share protocol, so the teacher is going to ask 3 questions, and it's going to be a pattern. This teacher is going to ask the question, and then the student is going to take a minute to think about their answer. They're going to take 2 minutes to talk to their group about their answer, and then 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, each group is going to share the answer that they collectively come up with. So the teacher actions are asking these questions and placing students in groups. The student's action is to sit in their assigned group, listen carefully to the teacher's instructions, and answer each question independently, and then collaborate with their group after that. So after this warm-up is done and any misconceptions are addressed, we're going to go into the activity. The warm-up is going to take approximately 10 minutes. We're going to take an hour for the main activity of this lesson. I have simultaneously going here the teacher actions and then the student actions. The way this is going to work is students are going to be given sticky notes. They're going to start off with 2 sticky notes each. Each student is going to be set up with this stage. So the Civil War has just ended, and with all of the prior knowledge and historical understanding of the situation, what are 2 issues they believe African Americans are going to be facing in the South right after the Civil War? So the students are going to, first, they're going to brainstorm their 2 predictions. Second, the teacher, you are going to facilitate a group collaboration. The teacher needs to ask the students to share their answers with their group and to have the groups put similar answers next to each other. The next task, the teacher, you need to ask students to review the collective answers they've come up with and list 3 answers they all agree on. So this started with individual brainstorming, and now we're more in the collaboration phase. After that, the students are going to individually visit their peers. So they're going to go to different groups, and they're going to read the potential problems that other groups came up with as well as use a dry erase marker to write potential solutions next to the other group's problems. So we are taking in the answers that the other groups came up with and offering potential solutions. After that, students are going to be asked to go back to their desk and they'll be invited to review the answers left by other group members on their desks. So the teacher, you're going to go ahead and ask the students to review the answers that are left and start a discussion with your table, asking, do you agree with the peers that left the response? Why or why not? After the students have had this conversation, and during this time, the teacher needs to facilitate these conversations, asking, review your answers, discuss with your group, do you agree with the responses, why or why not? Now, with these problems in mind, we're going to move on to a worksheet. I'm going to show that to you right now. This is to facilitate the research aspect of this project in this presentation. So the directions here, it is put in steps. I have chunks it into one step at a time. First step is going to be a review, just to allow students to catch up, anyone who is getting lost, because there is a lot of moving around at this point, and I don't want to cause added stress by piling activities on top of each other without making sure all the students are on the same page. So they're going to go ahead and list the 3 potential problems faced by African Americans that their group came up with originally, and they're going to review the potential solutions that other teams left for them, and they're going to pick the solution that they like the most. It does not have to be one of the solutions another group came up with. It could be a solution that your team decides. So, for example, maybe you don't like what another group left, but in the process of talking about the reasons you don't like their answer, you come up with an answer you do like. And so there's no restrictions on the potential solutions. The groups are able to put whatever they would like. Additionally, teacher, it's going to be up to you. Do you want all the groups to have the same thing on their paper? Do you want it to be fully collaborative? Do you want there to be just one handout to each to each group? Or do you want to ask the students to have independent work during this time? After they have gotten that baseline down, they're going to read an article that will be provided to them. If this is being completed digitally, I do have a link available in the document. It's going to take you here. Can also be easily printed out. This is an article covering the Freedmen's Bureau, and in this article, it is going to cover some of the most important points. It's going to allow students to answer the questions that they came up with themselves. So after reading it, the students are going to need to list 3 questions they still have after reading this article. These are going to help them create research questions. So they read the article. This article that is chosen is purposely vague to a degree. So it introduces the students to topics, but does not necessarily provide all of the information you could want on it, because I chose this article because I want to encourage students to ask more questions. So either independently or with the group, this is up to the discretion of the teacher. Come up with 3 questions that you have after reading this article. Next step, this is where the Chromebooks come into play. Using the internet, work with your group and type your questions into a search engine and record the best answer you can find. Remember to look for sites that seem legitimate. So I think it's really important to have a conversation prior to this research activity where students learn about websites and which ones you can trust and which ones you can't. Here they're going to record the answers that they deem to be the most accurate. And then finally, we're going to summarize this as a group. We'll also say you can make this individual if that is your preference. Look over what you've learned. Compare it to your early predictions. Individually write a 5 to 10 sentence summary of what you learned. Include your predictions and if they were correct, challenges faced that you learned about, and solutions provided that you learned about. So they're going to combine the entire lesson for this portion. Tell me, bring in those 3 predictions that you started with. Did you see those 3 predictions come true in the article? And if not, was that a part of your research question? In your research process, what challenges did you learn about and what solutions were provided? The goal of this is to get to the Freedmen's Bureau, which is the organization that stepped in and provided solutions to all of the problems that the students are learning about at this point in time for United States history. To summarize this lesson, we're going to take 5 minutes just to put away all of the materials, regroup, and then allow students to, on one sticky note, do a 3-2-1 protocol summarizer, where students are going to list 3 things that they learned today, 2 things they already knew, and 1 question that they still have. And this will allow you, the teacher, to have a good understanding of students that might be struggling still, so we can form new groups the next day and provide necessary remediation if necessary. Thank you very much. This is my problem-based learning activity.